Hello, and welcome to Rex, the Adequate Would-Be Chef. Today I'd like to take a walk on the sweet side. I've decided to do the famous Julia Child's chocolate almond cake. This is a delicious cake that has a beautiful rum chocolate icing, and the cake itself is a bit gooey inside. You sort of undercook it so that it gives a nice gooey batter taste. Now, how would I know what it tastes like? I generally don't cook my recipes ahead of time, but this one I did make the exception. It was the first recipe I ever cooked out of this cookbook, and I wanted to make sure that I could do it. It did have some problems. You separate the yolks from the egg whites, which is exactly what I did. When all was said and done and the cake was in the oven, there were my yolks sitting there on the kitchen counter. They should have been in the cake. Still turned out pretty good, but I'm hoping today it's going to turn out a lot better when we make the chocolate almond cake of Julia Child's. So come on, let's start cooking. Now this recipe calls for an 8-inch cake pan. I had trouble actually finding one. What I could find in the stores was a 9-inch variety that you see right here. This did make the cake, when I originally made it, a bit thinner than I think Julia actually wanted it to be. So what I've actually done is I've bought 2 today. I'm going to actually be doubling this recipe, going out on a limb, and I'm going to stack them 2 together to make myself a bit larger cake, but I think it's going to be pretty good. One of the key things when you make a cake, if you've never done so, is you need to butter and flour the pan. We're going to take softened butter, and we're going to rub it on in the inside of this pan. You take your flour, you sprinkle it, and you basically go around the entire pan like this and have it coated really nice in flour. The flour is going to stick right to that butter. You just turn it over onto a hard surface, hit it once, any excess should fall out, and that's how you're going to flour your pan. I'll already have this done in the video, and basically I'll have it set aside and ready to go. Before we go any further, the newest member of the family. Isn't she a beaut, ladies and gentlemen? The KitchenAid 600 Professional Series. Pristine, never had a lick of food in her. You and me will get to break her in on her virgin dish coming soon. Okay. As you can see here, I have laid out all the necessary groundwork for what we're about to be making. I've measured out. Let me zoom in here. I'm going to try to get over the hump. Let me tell you. Now, I have doubled this recipe as I said earlier. So if you're looking to make this, just remember that you're going to cut this down. Again, I have my 2 pie plans. They're going to be buttered and floured here shortly. I have 2 tablespoons of sugar, a pinch of salt, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of cake flour, which I'll sift, 6 eggs separated, so we have our yolks here and we have the whites there, a rum. I have some Sailor Jerry spiced rum that I'll be using, almonds, which will be going into the food processor here shortly. You need semi-sweet chocolate. Basically, I have 8 ounces here. That's 2 bars. So I do recommend, if you're going to do something like this, be sure to get like the Ghirardelli, something that you'll really like. And I have 2 sticks of butter and the utensils. So I have mixing containers, spatulas, this, that, and the other. I will be using the KitchenAid here and cleaning it as we go. Okay, as you can see here, this is nice flour. The other one looks just like it. And basically we're going to set these aside and we'll use that in the future when we're ready for it. Now the next step is to cream the butter and the sugar together. And you want to do this until it turns into like a pale yellow. And basically you'll get a ribbon will start forming in it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the KitchenAid for this. I'm going to use the pastry attachment because the wire whisk, the butter would get caught up in it, and I'm hoping that the pastry attachment is going to work a lot better for us. So let's go on down and let's check out the mixer in action. Okay, basically when you're going to blend the butter and the sugar together, you're going to cut the butter into 1/2-inch chunks, much like you see that I've done here. Take the metal bowl that you're going to be mixing this in. If you don't have a metal bowl, a glass or ceramic, but run it under hot water. Get it nice and warm. It's going to help in the process. And then basically what we're going to do is you're going to take this, and it's going to get a little bit loud here. We're going to pour our sugar in. And we're just going to beat this until it's nice and smooth. It's going to take a few minutes. So I'll see you when you get back. Okay, you can see now, I'll go ahead and turn this off. I've done a couple of things. I've had to change out my adapter because it wasn't getting a good enough mix, and but it has turned the color that we're looking for. Okay, you can see that I've got the sugar and everything. We're going to go ahead and pour in the yolks. And we're going to well blend those in with the sugar. Get the last bit in there. I'm going to make sure that's well blended, and I'll be right back. Excellent. As you can see here, I've got the yolks well blended in. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pop these out, and I'm going to put it into a separate bowl, and I'm going to clean up this dish because we're going to use that to do our egg whites. So bear with me, be right back. Okay, one of the first things we want to do is we want to butter and flour the cake pans, and we also want to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. Now also, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our chocolate. So what you want to do is you want to take all your chocolate and you want to take your rum, and we're going to put them both in here, and we're going to set, once you have your rum and your chocolate, cover this. You have a larger pot around it, and we're going to put this in like a bath off heat. I'll show you that in just a second. Now, as I was saying, you can't just put chocolate and rum and boil it on the stove. That's not going to work. What I have here is a pot of almost simmering water. We're going to take that off heat. Here in my pot, I've placed my chocolates and the rum. I'm just going to sit that down in a nice little chocolate rum bath, and we're going to cover that lid, and we're just going to let that sit off heat while we go ahead and we're going to go ahead and butter and sugar and mix all the other ingredients, and then we'll come back to this and it'll be ready to go. So let's go ahead and get into this recipe. Alright, it's time to do egg whites. Now if you've never done egg whites before, we're basically going to beat these egg whites until they're stiff, or what they call forming stiff peaks, as when you're done it would sort of peak over, and it's very important, and we're going to fold that into the batter when we're done. Now there's different methods for doing this. I've looked onto my KitchenAid mixture, and it states that if you have approximately 6 egg whites, which is exactly what I do, I want to go up to an 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to gradually increase the speed. I'm going to put the egg whites in, we're going to put the salt in, and we're going to gradually increase that speed up to 8, and we're just going to let them whip. Now right when they get to a pretty good consistency, I'm going to go ahead and put in the 2 tablespoons of sugar, and that's going to complete them and stiffen them up just a bit more. Let's see what the mixer does. Been having mixer problems today. I've never used it before, and apparently I needed to do some adjustments. So let's hope this works. I'm going to go ahead and just pour in my egg whites, as you can see right there. That's good. And just a pinch of salt. So why don't we just, that's a pinch right there. Pinch that in, maybe a pinch more. Oh, 2 pinches of salt. I've doubled my recipe. So we're going to put in 2 pinches of salt. And let's go ahead and turn this on. I understand it's going to be really loud, but I'm just going to gradually turn this up to 8. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll come back and you'll see what it looks like at the end. Okay, at this point we have soft peaks forming, so I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in our sugar. And that's going to give us a stiffer peak. Sometimes you just have to turn it off. Oh yeah. You see how that sticks to the spoon like that? That's those are really good. And it's sort of hard to film this and do everything else. There's so much going on at once. It's hard to capture it all, especially since I am the filmer. So let's go ahead and move on down. Notice I've got my dishes here. I'm trying to keep a clean work area. I've got the separated mixture here. Now that this is our sugar, our egg yolks, and the butter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move in to the melted chocolate. I went ahead and took my almonds and I put them in my little mini food processor while my egg whites were going, and basically I pulverized them. So we want to mix in our pulverized, make sure we get it all. Pulverized almonds, and then if we come over here, we're going to come over to our chocolate bath. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've sort of been loosey-goosey in this entire episode for some reason, and I didn't really get this chocolate on in time. I can't stress enough, read the recipes, you know, practice the recipes, you know, go over them in your head. Although this is melted, I could probably get a little bit more out of it. See, it's still sort of stuck in the bottom there. If you leave it in that mixture for probably another 5 minutes, this would definitely come out cleaner. But we're going to put all this in here, and with a rubber spatula, I'm going to mix this in. At the same time, if you remember, we had almond extract. Go ahead and pour that in. We're going to mix this in. Get this good and mixed. You smell that rum. And once we have this good and mixed in, almost immediately what we want to do is stir in 1/4 of the beaten egg whites. So I'm going to take about 1/4 of these egg whites. Look how fluffy. See how fluffy those are? Like a big cloud. Like a fluffy little cloud. And I'm going to fold these gently into our cake batter. There we go. This is definitely, it's going to lighten the batter, which it definitely has. Then we're going to put in more of these egg whites, 1/3. More of the fluffy little clouds. See that? Nice and fluffy in there, almost like marshmallows. I don't want to mix it too much. We want to keep a nice fluffy consistency. Now it's partially blended. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and I want to sift in. Put all this flour in there. We're going to sift in. Let's see. See what it says. We're going to sift in 1/3 of the flour and then continue folding. So let's go ahead and. That's about 1/3 of the flour right there. And we're going to keep on folding this. Alright, let's put in a little bit more egg whites. We're going to alternate this. So now we do egg whites. We'll do a little more flour. We're going to fold that in. It's starting to look a little bit more like a cake batter, isn't it? Trying not to mix it, I'm just trying to fold it over. At this point, I'm going to put in the remaining of my egg whites. Rubber spatulas are awesome. See how clean it got that? Just whips it right out. Fold that in like so. Now remember, I doubled this recipe. So if you're doing this at home, following along, you would not have the same amount that I do. Excellent. That's the remaining flour. Probably a little heavy on the flour at the end. I probably could have worked that in just a little bit different, but hey, I've only made this once and I left the egg yolks out, so you can only imagine. You never know. That's sort of where I got into the habit of measuring everything beforehand. Okay, we're very well mixed. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn this into the cake pans. Let me clear some space so you guys can see this. I have two, so I want to try to get this good and even. Smells delicious already. I'm sure I'll have people in here wanting to lick the bowl here in a second. Not that I blame them. I was always hovering around my mom wanting the bowl. Me and my sister, we'd fight over, I get the bowl. No, you got it last time. And it became a who could lick their fingers the fastest contest, you know. That's it. We're gonna go ahead and there you go, just turn those in. We push the batter around. I'm going to shake this around, okay. Put it in the oven in the middle rack, and we're going to cook these for about 20 minutes. Be right back. Oh, what's that sound? That actually is the timer. It's been sitting in the oven. We've been about exactly 25 minutes. What I'm going to do is we're going to check on the cakes. We want them to have what they call puffed. 2 to 3 inches around the outside of the pan. Should be nice and firm. We should be able to take this toothpick, stick it in, it should come out clean. The very center, what we're going to want is we're going to want to almost move just a little bit as we shake the pan. And the toothpick should come out oily in the center. Remember, these are supposed to be sort of quasi-done, so they're a little bit gooey in the very center of it. So let's see what they look like. Ooh, they've definitely puffed. Let's see, that's clean. That's clean. Give a little shaky. And they're right there, maybe. Look at that. So we're going to take these out. Now, let me move you up here so I can talk and work at the same time. Oh, I'm zoomed in. Okay, now we're going to want these little bad boys to cool. What you can do is just put them on the counter, or you can put them on what they call a baking cooling rack. I don't have one. I've done the poor man version, and that's just put it right here. I've taken a oven rack right out of the stove, obviously while it was cool. I'm going to set them on there. We're going to leave these, get down to talk to you. Hi. We're going to leave these in the pan for 10 minutes. Then we're going to run a knife along the outside, and we're going to flip these over right onto this cooling rack. And then we're going to then we need to let them cool. We're going to leave these on this rack for about 10 minutes. I'm going to run a knife around. We're going to flop them out. Then they need to cool for another 1 to 2 hours. At that point, we can work on the icing and maybe eat some cake. See you in a few. Okay, good morning. It's 4:37 a.m. I am doing my video editing, and I've realized that I've turned my mic off. So you're going to get a little voiceover here like Mystery Science Theater. As I mentioned earlier, we're about to run the knife around the pan, and we're going to go ahead and flip this over, and the cake is just going to fall right out. Now, these are buttered and floured pans. And not only that, but it's a non-stick pan, so we definitely shouldn't have any problems. Now, I've used a lightweight cutting board to put underneath it, as you just saw, and we're just going to lift it up, maybe a couple little taps there on the back of the cake pan to make sure it falls. And nothing yet. Is it in there? Yep, still in there. Maybe tap it a little harder. You see, what happened here is I got a little lazy when it came to buttering and flouring one of the pans, and I'll let you be the judge as to which one is the issue. Now, maybe if I run it around again, like I stated a little bit ago, you should have undercooked these. So if we undercooked these and tried to do this, the center probably would have already fell out of this cake. So you definitely want to flour and butter your pans really well. Let's see. Nope, still. Maybe if I push on the center just a little bit harder. Oh, hey, there we go. Presto, no problem. I should do this all the time, little voiceover action. And then as you can see, I'm just going to slide out the small, flexible cutting board. Now, I have no idea what I'm saying right here, but I do know that we're going on to the next cake pan. This is the one that was buttered and floured much better, the first one. Running the knife, grab your handy dandy cutting board and flip, and give it a little bit of shake Rex for good measure. Shaky, shaky. There you go. Voila. Beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do we have now? We have 2 cakes. We have a lot of time already into this. I'm also cooking dinner as well. I'm pretty exhausted. But we got the 2 cakes, and we're going to go ahead and start icing these. Now, I'm just trying to kill time because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I know I gave a good Sarah Palin wink coming up, and that's what we're waiting on. So as soon as we see the wink, we can move on to the next step of the recipe. Come on, Rex. I know you want to wink. Oh, I think here it comes. Bink. Whew, 2 hours has gone by. Dinner's been cooked. And we're ready to ice these cakes so we can eat them and go to sleep. So what do we need to do? Well, just like we did with the cake, we need to create a nice little hot tub for our rum and our chocolate. So if you missed the beginning of the cake, go back and watch it, because I'm going to take the rum, I'm going to put it in a pan, I'm going to take the chocolate in the same pan, I'm going to cover that. I've got a larger pot back here on the stove, it's simmering as we speak. I'm going to place that in with the lid covered, take it off the heat for about 5 minutes. When that's ready, we'll be ready to go. Okay, so this is a butter icing. Basically, the only ingredients we have is butter, rum, and chocolate. So once we pull this off the stove, it's going to be a nice creamy mixture, which we're pretty much there. I just checked it. I'm going to bring it over here. I'll bring the camera down, and we're going to stir in a pat of butter at a time until all the butter's melted into this. At that point, we're going to put it into a nice chilly bath, and I'll continue stirring it until it begins to get to a nice spreading consistency, and then we're going to try to get it on this cake before it gets too cold. Okay, I know it's hard to see because it's nice and dark, but if you can take a peek in there, that's some beautiful, soft rum and chocolate. Now, I've got all my butter here. I've had this butter sitting out there for a couple hours now anticipating this, because if you do it straight from the fridge, it's just going to take too long. So one piece at a time. Put it in there, mix it. All right, that one's gone. Let's go straight to the next piece. At this point, if you're thinking about what's the calorie content of this dish, you should probably just turn the camera off, go find some pieces of carrots, and enjoy being skinny. Okay, so at that point, what you have is a really stiff chocolate milk, hot cocoa. And I know you think that's never going to go on a cake, but that's what its little friendly bath is for. So we have an ice water bath. I got a bunch of ice cubes. And we're just going to set this down in here as best as we can. And we're just going to start spinning it again. And as it chills, it's going to start to thicken up. And we just want to go until it's spreadable. Okay, we're almost there. I'm going to stop in just a second because I don't want to get too there. We're going to stop right there. Bring a towel over here. Get rid of the ice bath. Now one of the things you're going to want to do, we got 2 cakes here. I'm going to take just a smidge of icing and I'm going to put it right on the mat like that. I'm going to come over and get our first cake. It's sort of going to hold the cake on that mat so it doesn't slide around that much. Then I'm going to get some icing, and I'm not worried about getting it too thick on this piece. I just want a nice coating. We can get it thicker on the other one and on the sides. I think that looks good. What do you think? Now we're going to go get our second cake. Oh, we almost broke. I almost broke, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to rest that little bad boy right there. Now this is really starting to congeal up. That can be a problem. And we're going to put all of this right on the top of the cake. I'm going to get it all out of here and just put it right up on top. Alright, once you have it on top of your cake, you're going to just work it around and then we'll work it down the cake. I don't have a fancy cake mat, or not a cake mat, but a cake, whatchamacallit. See, I don't even know what it's called, so no wonder I don't have one. We're just going to try to go around the sides here. I'm sure my mom is saying, what on tarnation are you doing? If she's watching this. I'm just trying to move this icing all the way around. Oh, that's bad. All the way around the cake. We don't want it to slide. Again, those if I had a proper cake stand, it has ridges in it. Prevents the cake from moving around like that. And they make a little spatula that makes spreading much easier as well. Okay, at this point, we have our cake. I'm gonna get my slivered almonds here. And we're just gonna sort of sprinkle these on. Pat them in just a little bit. Then what we're going to do is just go around to the side. If they fall, just pick them back up. This is sort of the part that's like sausage. Nobody wants to watch you do. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Ode de Chocolate Almond Cake. And finally, the chocolate cake. Honestly, cutting into it, first impression, I overcooked the cake. Again, I had 9-inch pans, I couldn't find the 8-inch. I never should have cooked them the whole full 25 minutes. I think I told myself that the last time, but that's why you have pin right down in your cookbook next to the recipe. 9-inch pan, cook less, cook 20 minutes and then test, because I definitely think it looks dry. But let's taste it. Got milk. It's rich, it's very moist, has a great flavor. This is a delicious chocolate cake. I recommend you try it. Hope you enjoy making it as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. Thank you, bon appetit, see you next time.